For so long, the story of Africa has been told by pretty much everyone except Africans, and it usually focuses on a really narrow, often negative slice of reality. But that's changing. A new story is unfolding, and it's one of reclamation, digital innovation, and massive economic transformation, all driven by the world's youngest population. All right, let's get into what this reimagined continent looks like.
This quote, wow, it just hits you, right? It's about an antique saber finally being returned to Senegal from France. But this is about so much more than just one object. It's about a massive reckoning with the past, and it really marks the beginning of a huge journey to reclaim a stolen heritage.
So that saber story? It perfectly sets up our first big idea here, reclaiming a stolen past. Because this isn't just about old things in museums. This is a fight for identity. It's an entire continent demanding control over its own narrative by literally taking back the symbols of its history.
I mean, the persistence shown on this timeline is just incredible. The saber belonged to a man named El Hajj Omar Tall, who was a really respected religious leader and anti-colonial fighter. After it was looted back in the 1890s, his family campaigned to get it back for over 75 years. 75 years! So when it finally returned in 2019, it wasn't just some isolated event, it was a catalyst. It poured fuel on a global fire for art restitution that's only getting bigger today.
And this is where you see the staggering scale of the problem. Just look at these numbers. Major European museums are holding tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of African artifacts. And on the flip side, most national museums in Africa itself have less than 3,000 objects. So, you see, the point isn't just about returning a few fancy items. It's about fixing a profound cultural imbalance and giving a whole new generation access to their own history.
What's really fascinating is that this same fight to reclaim physical history is happening in the digital world too. A new generation is busy rewriting Africa's story, but they're doing it on their own terms. They're not waiting for permission from the old gatekeepers and media. They're just grabbing the tools of the internet and doing it themselves.
Okay, let me give you a perfect example. A guy named Tayo Aina. He actually started his YouTube channel while he was working as an Uber driver. He was just filming the parts of Nigeria he was seeing for the first time himself. And he quickly realized that most of what you saw online about his home was negative. So he decided he could change that. Today, he shows off culture, social life, and entrepreneurship from all over the continent to a massive global audience. And in doing so, he's directly tearing down those old, tired stereotypes.
So creators like Teo are really on the front lines of a battle against what the author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie so brilliantly called the danger of a single story. See, the problem with stereotypes isn't that they're necessarily untrue, it's that they're incomplete. And when you show these diverse, nuanced, personal stories, well, that's how you dismantle that single incomplete story of Africa that has dominated for way too long.
And get this isn't just about a cultural shift. We're talking about a serious economic powerhouse in the making. Africa's creator economy is already worth about £2.4 billion, and it's projected to absolutely explode in the next few years. It's being driven by a huge surge in internet access and, frankly, a global hunger for real, authentic stories from the continent.
Now, this digital energy, it doesn't just stop with creators. It flows right into another game-changing space, the tech startup scene. And here, a different kind of storyteller, the entrepreneur, is building real solutions for some of the continent's biggest challenges.
I mean, just look at this number. In 2021, venture capital funding for African startups blew past $4 billion. And that's not just cash. That's a massive vote of confidence from investors around the world who see the incredible innovation and potential that's being unlocked by African entrepreneurs.
So where is all this money going? Well, a lot of it is concentrated in what people in the industry call the Big Four tech hubs. That's Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, and Kenya. As you can see from this chart, just these 4 countries pulled in more than 70% of all that venture funding in 2021. And that's creating these really vibrant hubs for a whole new generation of companies.
And for the longest time, the story was all about fintech, financial technology. That was the star of the show. But now we're seeing some really interesting diversification. In fact, back in 2021, e-commerce and retail deals actually brought in more money than fintech at the early stages, and sectors like transport and logistics are attracting major investment too. It just shows the whole system is growing up and tackling a much wider range of problems.
But, a story about this much change, it's never that simple, is it? With all of this immense opportunity comes immense pressure. And it's Africa's young people who are carrying the weight of both the promise and the peril.
All this incredible progress, and the super high expectations that come with it are sparking a new and really urgent conversation about something that's often been overlooked: mental health. The very same forces that are driving all this amazing change are also creating brand new kinds of stress for the young people who are leading the charge.
I mean, just think about that digital world we were so excited about a minute ago. It's a total double-edged sword. On one side, you have connection, platforms for creativity, powerful tools for activism. But on the other side, it exposes young people to cyberbullying, intense body image pressure, and just a constant, overwhelming flood of information.
So what are these pressures really? Well, the African Union actually looked into this and diagnosed 5 key stressors that are hammering youth mental health. It's a whole range of things, from the anxiety of climate change to the pressures of school and that constant nagging uncertainty about finding a decent job.
And here is where it gets really, really tough. The resources to actually deal with these pressures are just not there. Africa has only 1.4 mental health workers for every 100,000 people. Let that sink in for a second. The global average is 9. That's a massive, massive gap that leaves most people who need help completely on their own.
So how does all of this come together? Well, you have a generation that is reclaiming its past, building a new economy, and facing down these huge new pressures. And out of all of that, they are forging a new, really practical vision for the future of the entire continent.
You can see this new vision in action in movements like #EndSARS in Nigeria or #FeesMustFall in South Africa. These aren't just protests in one country. Through social media, they become continental conversations. They build solidarity between young Africans who realize their struggles are all interconnected. This is a new kind of Pan-Africanism. It's less about old-school ideologies and much more about shared challenges and digital teamwork.
And this new solidarity needs an economic engine to power it. The African Continental Free Trade Area, the AFCFTA, could be that engine. But young people are making it very clear they are not going to be passive bystanders. They're demanding a seat at the table. They're insisting that just being included isn't enough. They want real ownership and real equity. So, when you pull it all together, what you see is a continent that isn't just fixing the wrongs of the past, but is actively designing a brand new reality for itself, culturally, economically, and politically. And it leaves us with one huge essential question. As this young, dynamic, and digitally native generation finally takes control of the narrative, what kind of future will they write for themselves and for the rest of the world?